Good morning and welcome to Webinar Tuesday. My name is Mary Jo Williams and I'll be your facilitator and moderator for today's presentation. But before we get started, I'd like to share a little information with you about the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center.
Is your business been affected by COVID-19? The Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center is available to assist entrepreneurs and small businesses in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The VI-SBDC is sustained by the University of the Virgin Islands and the U.S. Small Business Administration and collaborates with local agencies to support the small business community. The VI-SBDC is nationally accredited and provides free consulting, business education training, and technical assistance. Attend workshops with subject matter experts from both the public and private sector. From idea generation to exit strategies, the staff at the VI-SBDC is ready to assist you. Now is the time to contact them if you need assistance with the Federal Paycheck Protection Program, so don't wait. Call or email them to find out how they can help your business grow and succeed.
For you that are joining us for the first time, Mr. Wayne Huddleston is the SBA Senior Area Manager for the Virgin Islands, and he will be presenting to us today on the Paycheck Protection Loan Program. And Mr. Huddleston, go right ahead.
All right, give me a minute or two. I'm going to share my screen. All right, hopefully that is visible to everyone there. As Mary just said, my name is Wayne. I'm the Senior Area Manager for the Small Business Development Center. For the Small Business Administration here in the territory. The Small Business Development Center is a resource partner of ours, and I'm very thankful for them to host these regular Tuesday webinars for SBA, where I provide updates on programs that we are offering. The topic changes every week depending on what we're doing, but for this week and next week, we're going to be focusing on the programs that were approved during the Economic Aid Act and give you the latest status on those in the territory and then answer any questions you have. Of course, you can answer or ask any questions regarding anything regarding SBA during these sessions. You don't have to wait for a particular topic to come up. But we're going to focus this time on PPP and EIDL and hopefully answer any questions you have along the way. So just a quick disclaimer as we do this. As I go through the PPP, EIDL, Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, loan forgiveness, all sorts of other things. There are a lot of rules to this program that are new, and they frequently change a lot. Every time Congress meets, passes another bill, they make a lot of changes to these programs, and they're quite lengthy. So I'm confident everything you're going to hear in this presentation is going to be accurate and is going to be consistent with the latest laws that have been passed by Congress. But as a quick disclaimer, anything I say in here, if it contradicts what has been passed by Congress or what's in the current rules, those rules take precedence. I cannot overrule any guidelines or rules or laws that Congress passes. I can only give them to the best that I know them. Quite certain everything you're going to get in here, though, is going to be the most up-to-date. So agenda for today, I'm just going to talk briefly about where we are with the program, the funding options that you have under COVID-19 through SBA, a little bit more of the details focusing on PPP and EIDL. And then I'm going to give a very brief overview on Targeted EIDL Advance, Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, and some additional resources coming up. Just generally, I know PPP had been existing last year and EIDL, but there are more changes made in the Economic Development or Economic Aid Act that was passed. And the primary purpose is just to make sure that the funds needed to support small businesses get out there and get out there to the businesses that most need it in the communities. So as I said, we're going to be talking about 4 main programs. There are a lot of things passed under the Economic Aid Act, but these are the 4 main ones that are administered by SBA. And so we're going to focus on those with a more heavy emphasis on PPP and EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan. So PPP, we're going to start with that. The first big thing is just to give you the takeaways of the program. The Economic Aid Act expanded the eligibility for PPP and how those funds can be used, and I'll talk a little bit more about those in an upcoming slide. It now made it so that the upcoming covered period can now be between 8 and 24 weeks. If you were involved in this in the past, you may remember that it was 8 weeks and then it was expanded to 24. Now it can just be up to 24 weeks, and you select the period that your covered period. Offers a second draw under this passive legislation. So if you received the PPP loan last year, you can now receive a second draw PPP loan again. It allows for a deduction of expenses. It updates the forgiveness form, and it's been further simplified. And then that simplified form has been expanded to apply not only to those who received a loan of $50,000 or less, but now $150,000 or less can now use that simplified form to apply for forgiveness. And we no longer subtract the advance that you may have received under the EIDL program from a PPP loan. So there were some policy changes I mentioned, increasing support for independent contractors and self-employed individuals, eliminating restrictions for felons. If you've been convicted of a felony, and it was for a financial crime, such as embezzlement or false statements in a loan application, bribery or fraud, then you're still ineligible for a PPP loan. But there was a 1-year look back for non-financial fraud felony convictions, and now that look back is no longer in effect. It now allows those delinquent on federal student loan debt to apply, and it provides access to eligible immigrant-owned businesses by making a small change in the tax ID number that should be used. So what is a first draw PPP loan? A first draw PPP loan is simply those loans for people who have never received a PPP loan in the past. So if you did not receive a loan last year when that was available up through August 8th, but you would like to apply this time, then you are applying for a first draw PPP loan. A lot of the same criteria is in place. You must have been in business prior to February 15th. This is not a loan for businesses who would like to start a business during COVID-19. This is to help businesses that have been adversely affected and were established prior to them. You can now accept a covered period between 8 and 24 weeks. A covered period is the time frame for which you have to spend the PPP funds in accordance with the rules of the program. So you receive the funds in your account. If you apply for a loan and receive approval, the funds hit your account, that starts your covered period clock. And then you have between 8 and 24 weeks to spend those funds for the intended purpose, which in most cases should just be for payroll. And then after that covered period ends, you can document that you spent it on payroll, and then you can apply for forgiveness. Additional types of entities are now eligible, which I'll cover here in a little bit. Additional covered eligible expenses are expanded. So now in the past, it was for payroll primarily, and then it was modified so that you could spend 60% on payroll and 40% on other items, but it was very limited, such as utilities, mortgage, and rent on your facility. That area has been expanded. It's still 40%, but you can now use expenses in that area, such as worker protection. So if you had to buy masks or you had to install equipment in your facility to comply with COVID-19 protocols, then those are now usable as the other expenses that can be covered under PPP. However, you still must spend at least 60% on payroll. And I highly encourage you, if you can expend 100% of a PPP loan on payroll, just go ahead and do it. It just makes it more complicated. If you're adding in extra expenses other than payroll, lenders can do it, and you are eligible to have up to 40% of that loan and other expenses that are covered. But if you want the process simple and you want your forgiveness to be as smooth as possible, highly encourage you to just spend it all on payroll if you're able to. And it's important to note that the deadline is March 31st. Now, there is currently legislation in Congress. I believe it will pass any day now. Once it is passed, it then goes to the president to sign, and he has pledged that he will sign it, which will extend the deadline beyond March 31st for an additional 2 months. However, that is not passed right now, and all we can go by at SBA is what is law and what Congress allows us to do. So right now, that deadline is March 31st. So I highly encourage you to not delay. If you're thinking about this program, go ahead and apply with your lender and get going with it. First draw loan eligibility. As I mentioned, there were some expanded entities that are eligible. Those are housing cooperatives, destination marketing organizations, chambers of commerce, and some news organizations. All other entities are still eligible for a PPP loan. So now a second draw. What is a second draw loan? That is simply people who have received a first draw PPP loan last year and then are now eligible to receive a second draw this year, and they want to apply for a second time. So there are some different rules with that. The maximum amount is reduced from 10 million down to 2 million. There are some instances where a business could be considered small and have up to 500 employees. That has been changed now. So if you're receiving a second draw PPP loan, you have to have less than 300 employees. And most importantly, you must be able to document and demonstrate that your business suffered at least a 25% reduction in gross receipts for comparable quarters between 2019 and 2020. You can't compare different quarters. It must be, if it's a first quarter of 2019, then you must compare it to the first quarter of 2020 and show that you had that 25% loss. You can pick any one of the quarters, but they just have to be the same quarter that show. So the process from here is the first thing you do is you find a PPP lender. So if you received a PPP loan in the past, you should just go back to that same lender to make the process easier. If you have not received one in the past and are getting a PPP loan for the first time, you should, if I were you, I would contact the lender with which you have an existing banking relationship for your business. You do not have to use that lender if you don't wish to. And here in the Virgin Islands, all 5 of the big lenders, Oriental, Popular, First Bank, Merchants Bank, and Bank of St. Croix, are all participating in this program. You can also use lenders that you may have an existing relationship with back in the States. There are plenty of them out there. If you want to get connected, you can go to sba.gov/lendermatch or /paycheck protection find, and you can find a little bit more information on those. Or you can also go to the SBDC or other resource partners to get connected with a lender. You complete their application. You don't complete it with us. We have applications on our site. Many of the lenders are incorporating the information on our application into an online platform through which you will apply. But you'll complete their application, you won't be going through SBA. They will make a decision, and they will submit that decision to SBA. SBA will then turn around and issue a loan number, and then the bank will deposit funds into the account. So this entire process, you work directly with your lender, not SBA. Again, you have until March 31st to do so. I encourage you not to wait, even though there is a good prospect that that deadline will be extended. So ideally, you receive the loan and you'll have forgiveness. But if you don't, if you just receive the loan and you stop there and then you use the funds for anything you want, then that will just turn into a loan. And that loan is at a 1% interest. No collateral is required. There are no fees or prepayment penalties. And it has a 5-year maturity on that loan. If you received the loan originally prior to June 5th, it was just a 2-year maturity, but you can extend that with your lender. It starts once the borrower knows how much of the loan is forgiven. So if you don't apply for forgiveness, I would just consider it a loan. If you apply for forgiveness and it's not approved, once you know that decision, then your payments will start. And if you don't apply for forgiveness, then they automatically start 10 months after the last day of the covered period. So for forgiveness, though, everyone should be applying for forgiveness. It would be foolish to receive a loan and not apply for forgiveness. That is essentially free money right there. So you must do it through your lender. You do not do it through SBA. you apply directly through them. There are no deducted advances from that as far as the EIDL loan goes. Your expenses paid with PPP funds are tax deductible. There are more forgiveness expenses, as I mentioned earlier. And there's a simplified process to do the forgiveness for $150,000 and less. Again, your lender will be processing that for you. Highly encourage you to do it through them, and it should get all that approved. Again, I'll emphasize, if you can expend all the PPP funds on payroll, I highly encourage you to do so. So that's PPP. I'm going to talk about EIDL now, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. This can be used for an expanded range of purposes, but it is a loan and it is not forgivable, and it is not intended to ever be forgivable. But it is very good terms. So the interest rate on those is 3.75% for businesses, 2.75% for nonprofits. It's a 30-year term, so you can stretch that out over 30 years. There is no prepayment penalty at all. You don't have to, under 25,000, you don't have to have any collateral. The eligibility is for small businesses, cooperatives, also nonprofits, businesses with 500 or less employees. There's a lot of purposes you can use this for. However, it's not intended to help you buy a new business, expand, buy a new building or equipment. This is intended to help you get through the crisis of COVID, to help you meet your debt obligations during that time, your rental payments, your supplier payments, all those types of things. That's what it's intended to be used for. Highly encourage you, before I talk about it in advance, if you are considering taking out an economic injury disaster loan, you should go ahead and at least apply. You have all this year to apply. The deadline runs through the end of 2021. However, I encourage people, if you think you might need it at some point before then, go ahead and apply. If you get an approval, you can put the funds in a separate account. Don't put it and commingle it with all your other funds, but set it in a separate account. And if you need it, you can draw down from it as needed. If you don't need it, and 6 months from now you decide you don't need an economic injury disaster loan and wish not to carry that debt, you can just return it straight back to SBA. There is no prepayment penalty for it, but at least you will have the peace of mind knowing that the funds were there should you have needed it at the time. So there is something called a economic injury disaster loan advance. Very early on in the program, there was a rush to get some money out the door, so there was an advance that was approved. Congress approved a very small amount. I say small amount, it was $2 billion, but the entire country was applying, and so that went fairly quickly. So some people received that EIDL advance, some didn't. In this recent legislation, Congress approved more funds for that program. SBA is now targeting low-income communities that have suffered a 30% or more economic loss and have 300 or less employees to receive that targeted advance. You do not have to do anything. You do not have to apply for it. SBA will make the determination and will email you if you may have missed out on that EIDL advance in the past. They will email you if you meet the criteria, and I suggest that you follow the instructions in that email. Some of the instructions will ask you to provide federal tax return, your EIN or social security number to make sure that it is consistent with your economic injury disaster loan application, monthly gross receipts, and a few other things that will be going through the process. There's only one submission for that, and I highly encourage you to carefully review all your information. SBA will not give you an opportunity to ask for reconsideration on a targeted EIDL advance. So you must submit all your information, all your IRS data, your bank information, and if something is not correct, then you just miss out. There's no chance to edit it and go back to it. SBA does not have the capacity and resources to keep going back for these. So highly encourage you to make sure it is 100% accurate when you submit that. But again, you'll be receiving an email from SBA if you are eligible for that information or for that grant. Speaking of grants, Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. This is another one that is new to SBA, approved under Economic Aid Act. This is for live venue operators, promoters, theater producers, talent representatives, zoos, aquariums, those types of things. We don't have a whole lot of those here in the Virgin Islands. But if you happen to fall and meet the criteria, perhaps you're operating a small museum or you're a live venue operator, you could be eligible to receive a grant. You must have been in operation prior to February 29th, and you must not have applied or received a PPP loan on or after December 27th. You can forget that bottom bullet point. That has been changed. I'm just going to move on from that. What to do prior. If you are eligible for the Shuttered Venues Operators Grant, you must first be registered in SAM if you're not already, the System for Award Management. This is a portal through which all federal agencies are able to provide grants. So if you're not registered, you should go ahead and start that process now. It's very easy. Go to sam.gov, just put in your information and register, and then you will at least be eligible to apply when it comes out. The application is not yet ready. It is expected to be ready on April 8th. So you can find more information on our site. Go to sba.gov, SVO grant, and you'll get more information on that. So this is just a quick little chart. This has changed a little bit, and I apologize. You may notice in this PowerPoint presentation, it says information is current as of March 1st. There have been some changes, and I am verbalizing those. However, our agency does not want us to edit this slide right now. So I've been pushing them at our headquarters to update the slides or allow us to edit them, but they're not right now. So I'm going to touch upon the parts that are wrong right now. So in this chart, everything is correct except for the part about Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. So if you apply for a PPP loan, you are eligible to receive a Shuttered Venues Operators Grant. So if you're not sure if you want one or the other or both, go ahead and apply for PPP because that deadline is coming up. You can receive a PPP loan and you can apply for a Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. You cannot, however, receive money under the Shuttered Venues Operators Grant and then subsequently receive a PPP loan. But you can do the PPP loan first if you wish. All the other stuff in this slide is relevant. You can't use things PPP EIDL for the same purpose and cost. For instance, if you said, I'm using the PPP loan to cover my payroll costs, and then later you say, okay, I'm also using my economic injury disaster loan to cover those same costs on those same months, that is not something you can do. Okay, so SBA-backed relief. This is for anyone who had an existing SBA guaranteed loan. That's a 7A loan or a 504 or micro loan. If you had them, you would know those come through your bank and you still pay your bank through those loans. However, SBA has allowed some debt relief where SBA is making the payments on those loans for the vast majority of those recipients. So you don't need to do anything. You don't need to apply. SBA is just automatically making those loan payments for you through your lender. If you have a SBA guaranteed loan with your lender and you are still making your regular payments, you should contact your lender to ensure that SBA isn't already making those for you. Most of them, I haven't heard any case where a lender did not notify a borrower of this happening, but just in case you didn't know about it and you have that, you can contact your lender about it. If it's an SBA guaranteed loan. You can get more information about that program too on sba.gov, coronavirus relief. All right, so the key takeaways, I talked about these 4 big programs: paycheck protection, debt relief, economic injury disaster loans, and Shuttered Venues Operators Grant. If you need more information on these or you need help filling out the forms for PPP or EIDL or some others, we have resource partners available to assist you. 2 here that are active in the Virgin Islands. One is called SCORE. They operate strictly virtually right now online, but they do have a partnership with the SCORE branch in Florida, which allows you to access expertise from a wider range of individuals in Florida who would be happy to get on Zoom with you or a webinar call with you or a phone call, talk about your business, Of course, they are very knowledgeable of these SBA programs, but they are charged with helping businesses regardless of their status of working with an SBA program or not. So they can help you with thinking through your business plan, thinking through major moves with your business, how to grow it, how to be successful. Really good mentorship and coaching organization through SCORE. Here in Virgin Islands, though, with physical locations is the SBDC. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about SBDC because they're our hosts. You should know a lot about them, but highly encourage you to take advantage of them. They have people who are very knowledgeable here in the Virgin Islands, who live here, who understand the market, understand the lending environment. They can help you with all aspects of your business, from creating your business plan to securing financing to exporting to all sorts of programs. So highly encourage you to make use of both of those. And then here are some updates for information on SBA. You can subscribe to our newsletter, sba.gov/updates. You can follow us at Twitter at one of the 2 links below to get the general US SBA updates, or our office. It says Puerto Rico, but that covers Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. You can also contact me directly. I'm full-time here in territory. I live here on St. Croix. I visit St. Thomas and St. John every once in a while as well. My email is there, wayne.huddleston@sba.gov. Also my cell phone, 340-473-7945. If you need to reach out to me for any reason regarding SBA programs, I highly encourage you to start with my email. That's the easiest way for me to get you the help you need. I can't always answer the phone when you call, but email works fantastic. And then there's always information that we keep up to date, sba.gov, coronavirus relief. We're constantly updating our information there. We have a whole PPP page set up. We have a page on EIDL set up, SVO grants. We're soon to have more pages set up on restaurants help and a few other things. So please stay tuned to our website. That's where you can get the latest information.